Okay, hello everybody. There's not going to be an intro today. I just really do not have a lot of time for this, so I'm going to have to speed through a little bit, right? I intended to start this a little earlier, but yeah, now I just have to kind of weave through a few different things happening in my house. Um I just want to start with some corrections to last week. This is patch 13.11 that we're still looking at. Rek'Sai. So we said something along the line, like I was thinking about this for a while, right? And Rek'Sai becoming significantly tankier, right? And having greater sustained damage is actually pretty appealing, right? And but I was kind of trying to think about it, and I was saying I don't think this really changes her identity very much. I don't think this like really empowers her scaling. And I think I might have been wrong about that. The only basis I have for saying I'm wrong is that the win rate spiked so much higher than I expected, and like mistrusting solo queue win rates is a good thing to do. But when it gets to like 54% jungle, maybe not, right? And the pros are already trying to experiment with her. Like one, I think we saw one Rek'Sai pick LCS that didn't really work out. I can draw a conclusion though. So when a champion's build like substantially changes, or when a change occurs that may shift their entire identity, kind of like this Callista one, I don't think we really get to use predictive criteria as much. Like we have to be very creative, and I think it's probably irresponsible to draw a conclusion unless I'm like really sure what that new identity is going to be. And even if I am sure of what that identity is going to be, I think as though it were a mid scope, I'm maybe not allowed to really make power statements unless it's clear that the champion's going to be like really overpowered or something. So we probably do that for Rek'Sai. Then there was something else I needed to issue a correction on. I'm trying to remember what. Oh, Ivern. Yeah. So they worded this terribly, and like just I was excited for the changes even before I knew they worded this terribly. I think Ivern's broken as fuck. I think Ivern is so broken. I'm allowed to swear now, too, because I'm not, like, editing this down for YouTube. Yeah, because we also decided, I posted this on my YouTube community page, I am no longer going to be editing these down for YouTube. It's simply not worth my time anymore now that I'm going to be more employed. If I were doing this full time, it would absolutely be worth my time, but unfortunately, I am not. Rel also got these hotfixes. She released at 41%, which was surprising. These hotfixes brought her more in line with what we expected to see. She's quite good. She has a new secure. It's very good. Okay, that's really all that we missed from the last patch. So, Sonic, thank you so much for contributing to the documentary challenge. We now have 100,000 sandwiches raised towards our 150,000 goal. You guys are probably going to be able to see this. I'm really excited. Okay, since I'm recording this 2 days after the notes came out, we already have this. Fixed a bug causing Ivern's W on hit damage. So that's really power impacting. Removed the interaction between Echoes of Helia and Font of Life, which is really sad. And I was going to have to comment on this explicitly, but they did add it to the notes. Fixed a bug causing it to activate when no enemies were nearby. Healing allies. Well, that's a pretty bad bug. Okay. This is obviously very harmful for Ashe support, who is probably going to have to pivot more towards Duskblade. This is very harmful for Swain support, who I already thought was pretty bad. This is going to cause me to reassess my position on Ashe, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because we're also going to see some mandate nerfs. So let me wait to see how we assess those, right? It is an early stream, but this is the only time I have available with scrims coming up too. Speaking of Ashe, Ashe herself is getting a buff. She's getting a 5% AD buff on her Frost Shot, which, this is a pretty potent effect. As we've seen, especially from Aphelios, especially from Jinx, especially from Milio, and then the impact of Callista's changes too. Percent AD changes to auto attacks are usually actually significant for DPS, right? I mean, we've observed like 10% shift, 20% shift is insane. I don't know how much 5% shift is going to impact our damage, but we'll see. Volley, 10 damage increase. This is the kind of damage where we'd say, hey, that's a poke spell. So small damage adds up, and we would actually consider this meaningfully power impacting for specifically Ashe support, like all the A-haste builds. And then Enchanted Crystal Arrow is mainly just a damage buff for support that we'd qualify as nice. This is the kind of change where she's getting buffs to 3 aspects of her kit, which would imply that she's quite a lot more pickable. I would imagine that this is super power impacting for her Trinity 80 carry builds above all, because I still struggle to see the base kit having enough raw power to supplement, like, because Ash supports kind of an item conduit. So I mean, I would imagine that within our marksman pools, we should be considering Ash 80 carry a lot more legitimate than we have been over the past few patches, and I would encourage you to explore the option of introducing her to your pool with Trinity setups. I think if you're especially a topside team, I think that's a really, really valuable thing to include. So, I mean, yeah, marginally stronger. That's what we'd say. Okay, Gangplank is receiving a buff. And he's receiving a buff to a criteria that we're pretty bad at assessing historically, which is cooldowns. Excuse me. This was a nerf that Gangplank received earlier. He went from this to that, and we concluded that it is a solo queue win rate nerf. We concluded that it is a nerf that just reduces his impact throughout long fights, right? And so it's a little bit concerning that he's getting it back. I personally, I think I will never consider Gangplank to be a bad champion. I think there is no condition in which I can ever argue that Gangplank is genuinely bad, right? I mean, even considering the context of marksman itemization changes, he's been completely untouched. His core build path is completely intact, right? He still has Essence Reaver Rush. He now has access to Trinity Bruiser again, right? So, I mean, Gangplank has a lot of flexibility. I'm just trying to IOGS him in my head a little bit. Like, input, output, gates, spikes. Well, if that last nerf, we just kind of... If there's nothing systemically different about Gangplank, and this is a rollback, and it was really only a win rate nerf that I feel like he is still relevant underneath, and I feel like he will continue to be relevant, and Gangplank players will just be like super excited about their ability to play team fights, and there'll be like this little condition where, like, you know, you spend a barrel to wave clear, TP in, and then it's easier to get that 5th barrel back, like, whatever, right? Don't the crit ratios on barrels and passive lock GP out of the Trinity and Bruiser builds? No, not at all. Not at all. It means he's one-shotting you less consistently, but sometimes it is better to deal less damage but more sustained, like, depending on context. I mean, like if the enemy team is, like, noticeably tanky, just trying to one-shot them is not going to be, like, as effective, right? But, like, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure the Trinity Force is the less common one. But I wouldn't say, like, this is a trap that I fall into all the time, where something gets changed and, like, it looks like it's noticeably worse than before, right? Or it's just like, actually, no, this is exactly what I was talking about on TikTok, right? There's also, like, is this build bad versus is this build generically outclassed? And so, no, I do not think we have the conditions to label the Trinity build on Gangplank as bad. That's currently, without exploring it super deeply, that's currently not what I believe. Now, I haven't full IOGS'd it, and obviously I haven't full, like, explored Gangplank with all of those builds, and truthfully, I'm busy on bot lane right now. I'm busy on assessing support 80 carry stuff right now. So, I mean, we can also just verify, right? Like, I'm not even going to look at this relative to previous changes. We're just going to check exact current state, right? So, Gangplank empowers his next basic attack to set the target on fire, dealing up to 250 base damage, plus 100% bonus AD, plus 2%, plus up to... that's just a different ratio. Plus up to 200 bonus true damage if you're full crit. I mean, that is a lot that does nuke people, for sure, don't get me wrong, right? But the ratio here is, like, good enough if we want it to be more durable. Like, let's see, what else is, like, a crit scaling? There's a crit scaling on here, right? The slow scales with crit chance. Okay, that's not fully essential. Ignoring 40% armor, that does imply that just having more raw damage means you get to one-shot a wider variety of targets. Sure. I mean, yeah, the kit still does imply crit builds are generically stronger, right? But That's... Oh, shit, my fucking Twitter is up. What am I doing? Fortunately, I was just looking at esports stuff, but... Fortunately, you know, like... Oh, sorry, unfortunately, rather, I'm not qualified to go any deeper than that, right? Okay, best patch in a while, nerfing Milio, Yumi, Zeri, I agree. Removing Echo's Ashe, kind of disagree, that was cool. I'm a little sad about it being gone. If it means tank Zeri going away, it's fair to remove Sheen, sure. And we just have to be, like Zeri being a little more conditional because she needs protection, kind of nice. They hurt defensive builds for ADs. Yes, defensive builds for ADs are pretty bad. Varus is harder to execute on right now. She shouldn't be allowed to be this tanky with that much mobility, with that much sustained damage. I agree. Marksman DPS is the most threatening thing in League of Legends, and kind of... Zeri kind of... I mean, sure, she's skill shot, but it's still Marksman DPS. She's still hitting it, right? Either way, okay. Gragas, Happy Hour, 8 seconds to 12 seconds. Barrel Roll, Monocost going down with ranks, which is kind of funny. Basically, they are just going to make it easier to trade Gragas out of lane. I personally do not understand the deep, intricate specifics of, like, interacting with Gragas. So I do not know how much easier it's going to be to trade Gragas out of lane, although obviously sustain every 12 seconds rather than sustain every 8 seconds is either wave clear impacting as he holds his Q, or just generically power impacting and he has to take more bases, right? And... Like, because remember, this is also a champion you have to fight through damage reduction and stuff like that. Look, I would be genuinely surprised if this removed Gragas from play. Like... We can obviously see the potential impact of this, but because it comes down to specific numbers on your health bar over the course of a sequence, like, Gragas is a champion who, even when he disappears from the meta, like, it's most likely due to matchups, at least within the past few years, right? And I have never seen a time since I started, like, really analyzing the game, in which Gragas was an unappealing champion to have on your team, and he was, like, outright bad in all of his roles, right? So, my expectation, I mean, especially with compensation buffs, like, although they are, like, I would assume relatively minor. Yeah, my predictors are poor for this one. I think we should just wait and see. I would be genuinely surprised if Gragas was gone. Most likely not, right? In really bad matchups, it is a big nerf to Gragas. Oh, so maybe he... So actually, here's the thing. So that would imply he's a weaker blind. Unfortunately, he's a quadriflex. So no, he's not a weaker blind. As long as you can flex him. If you are a team that's running exclusively top lane Gragas, if Paradox is correct, and I would assume he is, then you have to be a little more concerned about raw blind pick early Gragas, right? But if you guys can flex, don't worry about it. Okay, Cassante is getting a nerf to footwork, and now this actually is long-term impacting. Why? Because with a haste, footwork rank 5 trivially gets into the in-combat spammable mobility threshold, the sub 6 second threshold where like, you have to be constantly concerned about this ability being up, and it's, like, really oppressive, right? Now going up to 8.5 seconds, how much... a haste do we actually need to get it down? How am I going to figure that out? Where's the formula? There it is. Reduced cooldown equals... Okay, so I need to solve for... reduced cooldown, so I need 6 divided by 8.5. Hang on, let me just, I'm trying to rearrange this formula. Base cooldown goes here. 100 plus haste in brackets can go up here, so it'd be 100 plus haste times reduced cooldown divided by base cooldown equals 100. Rearranging this sucks without paper. Okay, so 100 divided by 100 plus haste equals like 0.7. I don't know what to do with this formula. Sorry, caster math. So, I should have made a Desmos calculator or come prepared. I don't actually have the time to stay on this formula. I'm trying to figure out if it's like, okay, look, if it's trivially easy for Cassante to get the haste in his builds, I mean, Iceborne Gauntlet has 20 haste, and when we get to 33 haste is 20% CDR, right? 50 haste is 33%, 100 haste is 50%. I think actually 20 is 20%, right? It's like pretty linear at first. 20 is 20%. I'm just going to assume 20 is 20%. Because I think it's fast at the beginning. Because like the 9 shard is like 8%. So 8.5 times 0.8. 6.8 seconds. It's still trivially, it's still going to be trivially easy to get our footwork down into the threshold where it's a relevant in-combat spammable tool, which probably won't dramatically change his lethal windows when he goes all out. So I'd imagine this is a cooldown change that really just affects like a few trading windows, and every Cassante player should still be capable of playing Cassante. They're even aiming for a minimal impact on average play. I expect Cassante to remain good then. About 18%. Okay, so I was close. Kaisa. Okay, so this is one we have to math out. Kaisa is awful this patch. Kaisa has lost really clean build paths to get herself to to get herself to her Q Evo. She has to like hit 2 items to be on Q Evo, E Evo. And even then, like the E Evo might be hard too. Like it's so awkward, right? Her breakpoints suck right now. Exactly. So Kaisa's AD growth is going up to that. We have a calculator. Where did it go? Kaisa Evo calculator. Okay. So, Kaisa's... Wait, I didn't factor in her base? Surely I did. X equals Kaisa's level. I didn't implement X. Why did I not implement... Oh, wait, X... Yeah, sorry, I did implement X. X is Kaisa's level. X is on the fucking graph. So these... Okay, so our AD scaling is somewhere buried in this formula. Which I assume is this. Yeah, let me just verify. Stat growth... Okay, champion statistic, I think, is... Growth statistics. How do I find this again? Growth statistic calculations. Here we go. Stat increase equals G, and our G is what? G is our growth statistic, yeah. So then... That's base AD. This is our growth statistic. Our new Kaisa growth statistic is 2.6. There we go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm trying to find her breakpoints more consistently. Yes. So let's find like her most likely build path or something, right? We're probably... I mean... attack damage... And we're going to find, like, raw amount, and we're going to remove these, right? Obviously, Infinity Edge is the greatest, but we're not going to find an early Infinity Edge or an early Quick Blades or anything. So we're most likely going in a Kraken or Storm Razor sort of direction. We do have, like, the Uber Pickaxe stuff to consider again, right? Oh, yeah. This is how much AD you've purchased, right? So we just so you get to plug in the AD from a build that you have and see when your breakpoint comes online, right? So if I do this, I have Storm Razor, right? If I'm on Storm Razor alone, I'm obviously not going to get it. But if I factor in like an extra pickaxe, and the pickaxe is giving me like what, 25? something like that. Yeah, pickaxe is an extra 25, right? So then that puts me at 65 AD. And I would still only get that at like level 15, and so that's not ideal, obviously. But maybe Nashor's first is the right build for Kaisa at this point. Well, like, I'm not going to rule it out because AP Kaisa has been, like, putting in a little bit of work, but it has been explicitly nerfed multiple times, you know? And don't forget, like the longsword spam build, like, Prince's build, is actually just really, really, really funny. Oh, Storm Razor is actually a 50-80 item, and Kraken is 40. That's right. So Storm Razor's 50, which means we actually have 75, which means we spike on level 11, which is still too late. Like, we're still looking for a level 9 spike if we can get it, right? Longsword is how much? 10? Longsword is 10. Oh, I'm not factoring in Doran's. I'm not factoring in Doran's. Hold on. This is with Doran's Blade. Level 9 again. Ooh. Level 9. I'm at the extra longsword. With the extra... Oh, okay, with the extra longsword, we're there just immediately no matter what, and that's pretty expensive, but... Well, either way, this to me is proof enough that we actually do find like level 8, level 9 breakpoints again, which is pretty significant. Does Nashor's Hurricane get you WE Evo? Well, I'm pretty sure she explicitly needs bonus for... Actually, this does have a growth statistic in it too, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Nashor's... Okay, sorry, that's... Nashor's is worth 50%, Runon's is worth 40%, I believe, unless this factors in... Actually, I'll just pick the 90. Yeah, there is a growth statistic in here, so yes, by level 7 it would. Level 9, the Storm Razor Pickaxe D-Blade Adaptive Force gets her to Q Evo. Wonderful. Huge. So we have level 9 breakpoints again, which means Kaisa can be good once again. There will probably be earlier evolutions, right? Like, we're probably going to be able to find some cheese with, like, just Giga Stacking AD, because, of course, the Noon Quiver doesn't even have... The Noon Quiver has attack speed in it, and technically the hyper optimization is to not even build that. But... Oh. Oh, well. Okay, Kha'Zix is losing 3 base AD, just to make sure he doesn't have any spells that scale with base AD. Let's see, does he? Bonus. Okay, this change is completely irrelevant. This is a clear speed nerf to a jungler, which is irrelevant under Masters. Therefore, Kha'Zix is still good. That's a... Kog'Maw. So, Kog'Maw is losing 5% max HP damage, which is pretty significant, but of course his attack speed gets so high that we can just keep reapplying, and it doesn't really matter too much. When we say DPS nerf to a DPS champion KEKW, I now understand it more deeply, just on the concept that marksman DPS is the single most threatening thing in the game, and so the exact quantity doesn't really matter. It turns out when you're a DPS melee champion, the quantity does matter, and that's why Amumu's win rate has been fluctuating so much, and we've been confused all the time. However, since Kog'Maw is a marksman, even though he has gated output with this W downtime, Kog'Maw in his best conditions should still be absolutely best in slot, so I don't expect any major changes. Lucian. So they are changing how Lucian's Vigilance interacts. So the raw damage of Vigilance is going down by quite a bit. Minus 5% AD, minus 4 base damage, which is like rounding up to 10 base damage because he fires twice, but, you know. Light Slinger, Vigilance was so strong, like, basically because that's 220% damage autos further empowered by buffs, which is nuts. Absolutely insane, right? And that sheer level of burst damage is, I mean, because Aphelios Infernum is 110, Jinx Rockets is 110, right? And then, of course, coupled with Melio, who, even without factoring Vigilance, turns you into, what was it at max level? Like 135% AD attacks with magic damage supplemented, and that's on top of all of this. Yeah, so I'd imagine, like, you know, a 5% reduction when this is still above 110% AD is going to retain some major breakpoints, but, like, as a ratio adjustment, it is a scaling nerf to Lucian, which means it will be harder for him to, like, one-shot things in the late game. Coupled with the fact that people are now going to be trying him with melee champions, right? When an enemy is immobilized, he also gets Vigilance. I think what this actually does is, I think this creates more windows for Lucian's Quick Blades builds. How does this help Lucian's solo lane? This doesn't... I mean, I guess when jungle ganks come in... Yeah, but that doesn't... I prefer to assess champions, like, without the context of their jungler in solo lanes. Even though they are... Like, we're gonna have to know how they 2v2 and stuff, right? His passive is allowed on CC. Maybe you guys are right. His damage is still going to be kind of underwhelming for a while, though, without using Vigilance, you know? Like, it's... So yeah, he'll skirmish in River a little bit more effectively, but what I'd like you guys to understand, right, is even with this immobilization tag, the thing that was really, really, really making Lucian, like, super strong, well, one is the itemization, and that's not going away. He still has outstanding items. But two is Lightslinger on top of the raw damage buff given by Nami or Melio, right? And that's why, like he was good enough with Sona, he was good enough with Yuumi, right? Vigilance was a threatening property for sure, even, like, on... No, that's a counter argument, actually. The fact that Sona and Yuumi were good enough partners. That's a counter argument. Oh, but Yuumi was granting him on-hit damage, so that was further damage. Sona was just the weird exception. Okay, I'm willing to say that I'm a little bit wrong, right? With current Lucian itemization, greater access... So let's conclude like this, then. It is still most broken with Lightslinger empowered by further damage buffs, right? But we have seen in the past that slightly imperfect Lightslinger conditions still make Lucian good enough when he's running Quick Blade builds and is not trying to fully one-shot you, right? This is a slight increase in power to, like, Lucian Taric, for example. This is an increase in power to Lucian Braum, although it's not an ideal... Like keep in mind, like, if you need multiple forms of CC to really get, like, full big Lightslinger combos. So Lucian Leona is going to be a bit empowered. Lucian Rel is going to be a bit empowered. I'm curious to see if Rel E actually... But if Rel E empowers Lightslinger, then I think Lucian Rel is actually an outstanding lane, as long as you can get Rel out, right? I suspect one of the secret best beneficiaries of this change is actually, unironically, Lucian Senna. Oh, it now says healed or shielded. I missed that part. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's an important tag. Does this remove the no... Wait a minute! Oh my god, did that just kill Nami Lucian? Did that just kill the E interaction? Lucian can't get 4 autos. No, Melio's fine. The Melio interaction is fine, but... Did that just kill Lucian Nami? Well, I don't think Aerie ever granted Lightslinger. I think Aerie was actually special cased, no? I'm like 90% sure Aerie was special cased. because I remember testing this with Melio. I remember explicitly. Okay, so we can't test in Practice Tool, and we also don't have the time to test in Practice Tool because I have to move on very fast, unfortunately. So maybe it was that anything that would double proc Light Slinger only single procs it. Senna E grants Airy, yeah. Okay, maybe we don't overreact. It's probably fine. Because Airy, as long as Airy's doing its thing, maybe. Okay. Unfortunately, I have to leave you guys kind of hanging here. We won't know for sure. Just understand that Lucian's all-in is going to be a little bit weaker. Lucian will find more lane partners and more conditions, which means he's probably quite outstanding. Assuming that his interactions haven't been killed a little bit. Just be ready to play Quick Blades Lucian in the right games, because there's going, like you should only be building, Storm, Gale Force, like RFC, like full one-shot stuff when you have something to empower Light Slinger beyond this value. I think Lucian Senna is better because Senna has more ways of empowering Lucian, even if she uses her Q offensively, and Lucian doesn't need to full one-shot. I think Lucian Tarek's better. I think Lucian Rel might be better, but, like, obviously this interaction doesn't work as we thought it did because Rel's not running Airy. Yeah, we'll see. Lulu, who has a base kit that just always works, and it's really, really good. Lulu is losing small amounts of on-hit, which is a little sad, but it's just some early laning power. Lulu is losing a little bit of armor, and I'm contractually obligated to see what that value is. So just give me a moment. And this was armor, so 29 to 26, which is actually a very low value. And then armor per level is, I'm just going to drag this down, 4.9. Oh, it's already 4.9. Okay. We are outside of burst thresholds, therefore we do not care. By endgame, which we're not getting to, minus 60 effective HP, very irrelevant change to Lulu. So, very minor nerf, even though it, like, specifically impacts her Kog'Maw pairing, and Kog'Maw's dealing a little less damage, but that, like, Kog'Maw DPS change, DPS champion, whatever. And then she's just getting a stronger shield. So, actually, I think Lulu is arguably slightly better once she gets out of lane. It's just the laning is, like, slightly adjusted. It doesn't matter. Lulu stays relevant. Melio is becoming far squishier, but Melio is never playing at the range where that matters anyway, and so, you know, his trading power is slightly reduced. He's still going to have... It's making his shields on himself a little less effective. He's never trading more than 1 or 2 autos anyway, so I don't really care. This no longer scales up to 35% AD, which is super, super, super relevant. So now it's just dealing 15% AD. Yeah, he was outputting way too much damage. How relevant is this raw? Because this is in essence a burst damage nerf. It reduces his burst damage. It reduces his objective DPS by a lot. It leaves him with his excellent numbers, but his numbers post hotfix actually exposed him. So I thought he wasn't exposed to Blitzcrank. Melio has counter picks. Melio's numbers don't win every single trade anymore. He's still quite good. His kit is just inherently good. But the amount of damage, the amount of burst damage he's providing to Lucian's not I'll tell you this, 20% AD is very, very, very likely within our threshold of relevant burst damage. So Melio does become weaker, and now that we've explored counter picks to him, I mean, I'd imagine he still stays like... Okay, Melio is going to be strong, for sure, but maybe he's not meta-defining, and it's our job to find out if he is or is not meta-defining anymore. But there's no chance he fully disappears exactly like Gragas. He's too strong, he has too many things going for him. It's just the output doesn't seem overwhelming in every metric anymore. So that's good. Nasus, plus 2% lifesteal, cool. Fury of the Sands cooldown, down at upper ranks. Cool. That really hurts Draven Melio? Oh, for sure, but at the end of the day, Draven's still hitting you for 115% auto attacks before factoring his spinning axe. That's still good. That is still good, right? Yeah, like Lucian invalidates a lot of Melio's weaknesses. Draven invalidates a lot of Melio's weaknesses. I don't find that awkward at all, to be honest. It's just like because Draven Soraka is an amazing lane too, right? Draven is just good with scaling enchanters sometimes because he drives the lane forwards if the lane isn't like extremely high pressure. So I don't know. It doesn't hurt the lanes. It only hurts really the mid game, but the mid game is still good, right? So that's what I think. Anyway, this Nasus change. Is Nasus ulting on cooldown? Because I genuinely don't know. I only play Nasus support. I have no clue how to assess this. I'm sorry. But in fairness, like the last time I checked my opinion on Nasus, I'm pretty sure there were counterpick matchups in top lane where he was quite good. And there were situations where like, you know, you just pick him and Emax for a while and you... I saw Bwippo once building like Everfrost into like Hullbreaker or something, which was so cringe. Kale counterpick. I'm pretty sure he works into Ornn. Okay. Anything that is a Kale counterpick is not a real champion. There is no such thing as a Kale counterpick because Kale blind doesn't exist, and you can't convince me otherwise. But yeah. Either way, I mean, everything looks like everything looks reasonably fine. I mean, like, this isn't gonna dramatically impact anything that support Nasus does, and this is... I mean, it is going to mean that eventually in late game scenarios, Nasus just shows up and ults every fight in the side lane, but... I don't know. I don't... This is just in line... yeah, I can't assess this. I can't assess this. So, bare minimum, this isn't going to create new Nasus players, but that's okay. Orianna, R damage increased by how much? 0, 50, 100. That's a scale. Oh! And 15% AP! Ah! Ah! 15% AP requires how much damage to reach 40 damage? Oh, you need like... Okay, guys, you need like... You need like over 250 AP to hit any relevant burst threshold on level 6. So level 6, completely irrelevant. This is just a scaling buff. Oh, that goes from 8... Sorry, I read an 80. Okay, plus 50 at 11 can matter. Plus 100, plus 5% AP. Yeah, do I need glasses? Hang on. What's up? Well, okay. Orianna's actually good, for the record. She received, like, the buffs in... she got 2 patches in a row of, like, random buffs here and there. She got this buff, which in a vacuum, I think is, like, pretty tiny. All of the changes really made Orianna support actually quite a bit better. So I suspect this is a placebo buff, trying to convince people to play Orianna a little more. Yes, it will make her level 16 stronger, because plus 100 burst damage absolutely matters. But that's level 16, that takes so long to come on. Like, just... if her problem was that she wasn't feeling satisfying enough in the late game, which it might have been, to be honest. Like, I've been playing predominantly Orianna support, where that damage never comes in for me. So be it. But... she got massive buffs. Yes, she did. And with the 1100 Lost Chapter changes. So I think Oriana is good, and if you haven't, like, and if there's a problem with her scaling that I don't know about, I apologize. But otherwise, like, I would ask you to explore her again, not just because of this change, but Lost Chapter, previous buffs, all that. I think she's very solid. Right. Rel is amazing. Rel is, as predicted, well, her numbers were tuned poorly, but once her numbers were tuned better, I do think she's one of the best engaged supports by a lot. And she's actually, I'm really, really pleased about this, a really, really good jungler. I said in my Rel video that she'd probably be pretty bad in solo queue, but then her numbers just got buffed to a point where her clear speed is really, really excellent. So what do? They changed her default adaptive force stat to ability power, which should be an early game nerf. No, because we're actually trying to use our W attack speed a little bit. Shattering Strike is more consistent, which does make her quite a lot more threatening, but the damage is going back down by 10, irrelevant, and the jungle monster damage is becoming a flat mod. Now, 70 times 3 is 210, whereas it now simply deals at rank 1 150, and that's minus 60 damage to monsters, which is a really big deal. The damage on this one is going down to 60, right? 70 times 3 is 210. It's now, ooh, the clear speed. Ah, no! And damage on full tilt is going down. The ratio is going down. Flat increase. Well, the flat damage here is... But we're not... Uh-oh. These jungle changes should impact her mid-game clear mostly, while avoiding hitting her early clear too hard. I mean, I can see that, but... So, what are the big implications? Well, Shattering Strike confirms off Crashdown a lot more consistently now. Is that my phone? Okay, sorry about that. That was my grandma. So yeah, Shattering Strike confirms more consistently with Crashdown. Overall damage as a whole going down shouldn't really matter too much. This going down matters a lot because Rel had the Giga Nunu secure, which is no longer relevant. I suspect Rel Jungle is still going to be fine in competitive, as I said originally, but it was also really good in solo queue right now. So, personally, I'm going to give it a try to see if it's still something we can play, something we can make work, something that's, like, relevant as a flex pick. Because I do still think this kit's naturally, like, look, they haven't hit the movement speed on full tilt at all, and I'm personally still doing 3W into Emax. I think that's pretty compelling. Maybe I have to shift my skill order to make jungle work a little more effectively. Like, I don't want to have to Q max into E max or something, but ugh. Maybe I do 3Q E max then W. Like, either way, Rel jungle or Rel supports no hugely significant changes in power because we don't care about this damage at all. Not even a little bit. Rel support will never care about her damage output just because of the kind of champion she is, and in fact, this is most likely a straight buff. Rel jungle probably goes back to being not a good solo queue pick, but we're competitive players if we're watching this patch note rundown, right? And so we should assess it a second time. It was better than I expected. If it's going back to where I originally projected, then it's still fine. Right? Oh god, I have to assess this one, and I'm running out of time. Oh no. Okay, Rumble. This champion got a lot of changes and I completely forgot. Where is Rumble right now? That is super relevant. What Rumble contributes to the game is nothing more than absolutely obscene, excessive amounts of damage if you can get it off, right? Rumble's damage is stupid. Rumble's damage absolutely eviscerates squishies. Rumble mid is like in legitimate sleeper OP territory. Rumble mid is so strong. Rumble support in the right games, especially with utility carries, eviscerates people. Like there's actually this like secret Rumble Seraphine lane too, where she can set him up and, you know, like there's a combo setting up Seraphine's root. He reduces MR for her damage. She sets up his damage. Like it's not as consistent as like Seraphine Lux or like Seraphine MF, but into melees it can be like fucking disgusting. Rumble top lane is quite strong right now into less durable picks, right? It's just if you can survive his damage, that's when he stops being as relevant, and that's why he's not an early pick, right? So what are they doing to him? They're reducing base health. That is like pretty much within a durability threshold early, so he's squishier early. Health regen going down, health growth up, so that probably... I mean, I would assume that they've tuned it in a way that kind of equalizes later. Junkyard Titan, maximum heats to 150 with danger zone unchanged, which is really, really crazy. Overheat monster damage cap is going down, so first of all, it's harder to access overheat, and the attack speed is way, 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 way up. Duration down to 4 seconds, so you have to overheat at the exact moment where you can hit something. Look, Rumble Jungle is kind of a power farmer along the lines of Udyr, like, remember the Udyr Morgana Rumble meta? That's what he does. Losing consistent access to overheat if the other changes don't compensate is really, really detrimental to Rumble Jungle, which is super concerning because I have a Rumble main who just role swapped to Jungle recently. And he's going to be upset about that. So, Flame Spitter, the base damage is going down significantly early. Actually, sorry, at all ranks. Yeah, the base damage is going down a lot early, but it is dealing up to 10% max health damage with the ratio unchanged. The minion damage modifier is going down a little bit. There is a monster cap on percent health damage. I'm interested to see how that impacts his clear speed because on numbers alone, I can't tell, right? So what they're going to do, so this is supposed to just absolutely nuke squishies less effectively. Well, because let's see the breakpoint, right? I'm looking for when I'm at like level 5. How much damage am I looking for? I'm looking for 95 damage. So how much health do I have to hit 95 damage? Not very much actually. I'm only looking for 1200 health to hit 95 damage. I'm looking for 1200 health to compensate at level 5. Everyone has that. I'm fairly confident the overheat just adds an extra, or like the date. Yeah. Let's double check what it does. And I lost my tab here. Ooh, this isn't okay, is it? Is this not okay? Flames. Oh, dear God. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does increase the percent max health damage as well. And it's easier to get into danger zone. Oh, God. Okay, so let's check that one, too. Previously, that was 390, right? So this one is... We're looking for 150 damage now. Oh, God, that's going to be the exact same, isn't it? Guys, this is a straight buff to Rumble's Q damage to every target. Except minions. With easier access to his danger zone. The shield value is going down always, but it scales with your maximum health. What is his current value here? Once again, assuming we're level 5, we have 949 HP with no items. We have lost 35. 949 0.4. And that immediately compensates. That compensates. When we're at level 5, that compensates. But now we have Equalizer. Okay, so Equalizer... okay. This is okay. All of this as a whole is not okay. But... okay. So, chat. We have only checked early levels, but it would appear that at pretty much every stage of the game, except maybe the immediate beginning, every one of these ratios naturally fully compensates for the base damage, the base value that Rumble lost. And so now Equalizer is less spammable early. Like, it's... my Rumble player really liked ulting waves for just free recalls, like, a minute and a half before Dragon. Right? Which obviously was really good. And it's going to be a little more punishing to do that in the early game, but, like, my god. Rumble top lane is going to be a monster. Rumble mid lane is not going to be less of a monster. Rumble support is not going to be less of a monster at all. Keep in mind, Rumble support can just chill at whatever heat value he wants. Because he has no wave management responsibilities. Or very minimal wave management responsibilities. I think the big loser is probably Rumble Jungle, but every other form of Rumble just kills everyone more effectively. This champion might be genuinely broken. We'll have to find out. Ryze is currently one of the weakest mid laners with no presence in Pro. I suppose that was... actually, let's again... let's check his direct nerfs, because there was a very brief period immediately post Roa Seraphs where he was actually quite good. Right? Or not quite good, but playable. It was playable. And he lost some MR, and his AP ratio went down, but now it just went back up. But that's only the mana increase. But the mana increase matters for a champion who just wants to full play macro, right? Damage ratio up, missile speed up, so it's easier to catch people. Maximum mana increase. Ryze doesn't still do anything recursively, right? So basically the only thing this is going to do is allow Ryze to stay on the map macroing a little bit longer, which is pretty good for him, but I would suspect, like you know, he's a complex, weird champion, pure setup, pure macro, and that's something that amateur teams usually end up struggling with, so for us, it probably doesn't end up being a meaningful buff. In his last state with better systems that were supporting him, it was very similar to this, and it still wasn't enough to make him fully prominent at top level where he's strongest, so I'd imagine he's not bad, but he's not our most appealing pick in most cases, right? Doesn't his passive stack recursively? I feel like I just asked that question, but I might not have. I might have only done it in my head. Where's his mana thing? Is this? Oh, well, if written like this, and if that's accurate, then no. We'll check it out, but remember that we've seen Ryze in almost this state with slightly weaker systems, so that's where we're going to leave it for now, right? Sivir is gaining a more threatening Ricochet, plus 5% AD on the bounce, and her AD growth is going down a little bit to compensate. Sivir is, in my opinion, really, really bad. Why? Well, because she offers exclusively just generic marksman output, right? Her ultimate is not that overwhelming for her teammates, only for herself. And her actual unique output in combat of Ricochet, I didn't think was like super overwhelming, right? Like, and a plus 5 AD buff does a little more than you would think. It does increase her already outstanding wave clear. What is she gonna do for items? She's pretty bound to Kraken Slayer. She most likely is one of the secret strongest, like, BF Zeal IE champs, but maybe I'd be a little generous to Sivir. Like I'm thinking my perception of Sivir might have been like a little too harsh even before these buffs, where I say maybe she's like a solid C tier pick with like some situational value. Yeah, because if you pick Sivir exclusively for her macro to allow her to be a key piece of 131, sure. She's pretty good at that, but not sold that this changes anything super meaningfully, even though it's her unique output, which would be her reason to be picked. Or like Yuumi. Okay, I read this earlier because I have a friend who plays Yuumi, and she really wanted to know how bad the nerfs were. They look pretty bad. They look pretty intense. So, Yuumi goes from 10 to 20% heal shield power based on ally level to 5 to 15% based on spell rank. Ouch! We did not want to be leveling this, guys. We really didn't. Especially since, if I remember correctly, actually, never mind. I think I'm not remembering correctly. I'm pretty sure Q does not... Nope, never mind. Yeah, especially since the damage on hit scales with Q ranks, so ouch. Yuumi, you'd better be getting some XP from somewhere if you want any form of heal shield power, especially since your early itemization gives you 0. The shield value is going down by 30 at rank 5, compounded by the already existing, like, heal shield powered nerfs. That's pretty big. The attack speed buff, I personally would say, is probably irrelevant, especially since it scales back up to early. And, you know, attack speed without a lot of damage backing it up doesn't do anything. It's all good. Final chapter, heal per hit, is down by 10. Remember that, so that is effectively minus 50 over the whole thing, not including the best friend, because the best friend does take 30% increased healing, which we'll be able to see, like, the actual... No, we're not going to see the value. Best friend heal per hit is... I mean, is this updated? Yeah, 55. So it was 65. 65 times 1.3. They were healing for 84 per hit. So 65 times 5, you know, not including the ratio at all, times 1.3. So they were healing... Oh, sorry. 65 times 5... times 1.3. They were healing for 422 before heal shield power. Now, though, the best friend is healing for a base of... Wait. Why is it so specific? 55 times 5. Sorry. Yeah, 55 times 5. Every hit. Times 1.3. Yep. That, okay, I don't know why I recalculated it when that is simply how it is. So wait, why am my brain imploding? 65 times 5 times 1.3. So, yeah, they have lost, like... They've lost 70 healing over the entire ultimate before factoring in heal shield power, before factoring in the ratio, and this is, like, the best ratio in Yuumi's kits. I don't think an item can carry this. Maybe I'm wrong, because Yuumi is kind of one of those eternal champions, but, like... Guys, it's going to take a long time for Yuumi to access all of her power. Yuumi's always going to have to pick a trade-off for offensive, defensive sort of thing. Like, there's always a trade-off. Final chapter is by far the best part of Yuumi's kit by a lot. It's going to be easier to engage into a Yuumi team. It's going to be easier to kill her anchor. And that's extremely relevant. So I would be willing to bet. I didn't think Yuumi was that overwhelming before Helia came out. I thought her output was just fine. Now that Helia is here and she's friggin' broken, I think she is quite a lot weaker. I think Melio didn't get harmed that much, but I think Yuumi absolutely did. Right. I think so. Yep. I think she's. I think. Well. Enchanters as a whole, when you see like minus 30 on a value and you have to consider their heal shield power to begin with, you're like, whoa, that is a bigger nerf than it looks. Because this is unquestionably within burst windows that matter, right? Unquestionably, this is as well. And then you like, yeah, it's damning. It's very, very bad. It's very bad for Yuumi. So, in this case, I would suspect, try her. Don't be reactionary. I suspect she starts to transition out of our pools. Unless you just really love Yuumi. But Zeri's broken. They're trying to remove Zeri Trinity Force builds. So, movement speed plus 5. The passive where Zeri steals her shields and movement speed has been removed, so it's harder for her to access those defenses and movement speed. Burst Fire's passive has been moved to Zeri's primary passive. That's just a script level thing that doesn't matter for us. Q Burst Fire no longer activates Sheen. However, the on-hit critical strike multiplier is increased by 20%. Let's just remind myself exactly what that looks like. Zeri is... Afterwards, she gains lightning rounds to deal bonus magic damage increased by that. Okay, so yeah, they're saying build crit and you get a lot of damage when you use your E proactively, which also cuts your wave, your escape, which is that awesome balancing mechanism that they put on her before that was supposed to make her weaker. Okay, so what does Zeri do now? Shield Bow's better than we think, so Zeri does still have a decent 2 item if we can get it there. Generic Storm Razor is good. Yeah, generic Storm Razor into... I mean, we don't really want to be a Gale Force champ, do we? We'd much rather be a Quick Blades champ. Zeri's a short-range champion with very poor access to defenses within her itemization. If she's given defenses via an enchanter... I mean, because also don't forget she's got shorter range and she's encouraged to use her best defensive tools for actual damage. I mean, she's going to be a pea shooter. She should still never die, except it is easier to punish her in lane because she can't build early defenses. Explicitly, isn't she the longest auto-ranged AC? No, not since they gave her mini rework and cut down her Q by a lot. Like, she's not Sivir range, but she's not long ranged. And practically when you end up auto spacing Zeri in lane, that range doesn't, like, because you can get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get right. She's got dodgeable auto attacks, which does matter for how you perceive her range. Because when you actually fire at her max range, an enemy with a pulse doesn't get hit. So that max range, like, isn't her max range. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, because what is the actual value? The actual value is... Oh, that's right. The value is, like, super misleading here because it's not actually... Like, the numbers are not... Because it's a skill shot and the numbers are calculated differently from... I forgot exactly what the interaction was, but... I'm pretty sure this is, like, equivalent to, like, a... 575 or 600, which is not like short, but it's not long. Yeah. Either way, I know for sure I don't have to reassess that statement. Like, even though I can't remember, it's like an Ash conversation I had the other day. I can't remember what exactly drew me to that conclusion, but I remember that not enough of it has changed that I have to reassess the conclusion. So. Yeah, I mean, because it's Zeri, and because she still has good sustained damage eventually, and because she is always so safe, even without defenses in her system, and even without perfect HP, she will obviously be pickable, but I do suspect that she no longer dominates the meta. I do suspect that she is meaningfully weaker, because there's no shield bow, there's no Trinity, like, it's hard for her. Can we BF Zeal can we Caulfield Zeal PD Shield Bow? Can we get away with that? Not PD, Quick Blades. Caulfield's Zeal, Quick Blades, Shield Bow. Can we get away with that? It's... Well, Zeri's one of the champions who gets to dynamically choose between IE and Quick Blades. And when she's on Quick Blades, where is it? When she's on Quick Blades, not only is it more safety, but this damage gets empowered by quite a lot, further empowered by this. Like, all of this gets amped by Quick Blades. Plus, all of this gets amped by Quick Blades, right? Like, so it's only the actual Q itself that's not getting amped, which we can live with. Okay, yeah, so Zeri, weaker, not fully out of pools. Itemization is awkward. I think pick conditions might be a little bit hard. Harder, but it's still Zeri, and the only time Zeri goes away is when she's fully gutted, and Zeri's not fully gutted outside of itemization concerns, which we may be able to solve. Check back next patch. Maybe it's a little worse than I'm conveying. Okay, we're going to try to speed through this. Ardent Sensor. The Sanctify on-hit damage is going from 15 to 30 down to 15, which is friggin' hilarious, because I missed Ardent first conditions when I was doing my patch note rundowns before. I didn't realize that Ardent had become so unbelievably strong that it actually had rush conditions for, like, Milio, Sona, stuff like that. And so Sona was, like, secretly one of the best champions in the game, especially when the meta was favoring, like, Milio and stuff, and she found easy pick conditions in coordinated play like that. Now I'm pretty sure, even though Ardent Sensor's problems have as a whole been picked, now it settles into what I thought it was before, so it's really embarrassing that I keep missing these little bits. Ardent Sensor is not a bad item, but it's not an item that you want, like, before second, and usually Redemption can beat it, but I mean, even though I'm #1 Ardent Sensor hater, I still think it's kind of okay now, so just stop rushing it, and... It's because the other options are, like, a little less compelling. Still good, but absolutely hilarious. Okay, is that fine? Redemption. Let me think about that a little more carefully. I'm speeding myself up, so maybe, like, hold on. I apologize for being so scattered today. Ardent Sensor. Helia is more appealing. We're gonna see a Moonstone rework. Redemption raw value, Mikhail's raw value, Putrefier value is not bad if you can apply it and you're the right champion for it, but I think enchanters are generally the wrong champion for it. Ardent will maintain some second item pick conditions. I'm pretty convinced about that. Okay, Bloodthirster, 3,200 to 3,400. That's the ultimate greed item. Yeah, I suppose so. I'm going to skip down to Shield Bow, which now has 10% lifesteal. And we're going to kind of look at this. 18% lifesteal and a lot of AD eventually by endgame. Meanwhile, Shield Bow, which I now realize I was wrong about. I was wrong about this. The old Shield Bow started scaling at level 10 as well. At least that's what the wiki says. So the nerfs weren't nearly as impactful. It's still not very strong as a first item, but on some champions, it's actually decent as a second item. Namely, on-hit champions. And for everyone, it's actually kind of good as a third item. And Shield Bow is better than we think, especially now that it's on 10% lifesteal. Callista, in particular, is like the only Shield Bow rush condition that I've actually found. And I was really excited to find that. It's still good on her. So this is the item that actually provides defenses. This is the item where if you're like uber ahead and you're like nuking people, then it's potent. But it's like we're a bit less of an anchor, I suppose. It's worse anti-burst. So this is infinitely better anti-sustain. This is infinitely better anti-burst. Those are the niches of these items. BT having its cost increased like that is a little bit scary, but that's kind of where we settle. I hear some people saying Bloodthirster is just straight up bad. It is noticeably worse than I thought it was. Its rush conditions are dead. I thought they would survive. They're dead. The second item conditions are probably dead, you know. It's not truly a defensive item. It's an offensive defensive item. You know what I mean. The point is, once I finally release my standard marksman itemization documents, again, updated for the new patch, because I was waiting for more stuff to come in, we will see that Shield Bow is more likely to be our generalist than Bloodthirster. Gale Force. Gale Force it overperforms substantially on Yasuo and Yone, so the critical strike ratio is That's too bad. Okay, attack damage down from 55 to 50. It now takes 444 plus 0.4444 bonus AD to match the damage from the old crit scaling. Ouch! That's really damning! Oh my goodness! Well, because, yeah, one crit item was plus 40 damage. Two crit items was plus 80 damage. Now it's like, if I build like a 50 AD Storm Razor, if I build a 50 AD Storm Razor, if I build a 50 AD Storm Razor that's plus 20 damage when okay, so that's half the damage. That's actually half the damage from scaling. Ouch, 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 ouch. And Yasuo was low-key kind of broken with this. And I was just I hate that. I hate when I'm late to the party and I just start to learn something and I start to experiment with it and I start to do my research. And then like 2 days later, it's getting patched, right? Because I had Yasuo like high A tier on the 80 carry tier list I was working on. And then I was like debating moving him up to S, right? Can you even reach over 400 AD on typical ADC itemization? Well, Jhin absolutely can. Draven most likely can, but it is very, very difficult if you need attack speed. Misfortune can. 400 bonus specifically? No, that's very, very difficult, actually. I was just thinking total. So, shoot, what does that do for Gale Force champs? This is really bad for Lucian, too. Lucian's one-shot is nerfed yet again. So, maybe Lucian doesn't actually stay as dominant as we thought he did. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware that it says bonus. Okay, so Yasuo, Yone, Neela, Tryndamere will probably still get defaults to Gale Force, most likely. Like, it's such a good melee synergy item. Lucian, it's probably still fine on him, but situationally, because he does have to compete with quick blades. Jinx probably feels awful about being forced into this. It was so good on Aphelios. Oh, guys, this item was so good on Aphelios. It was so nice to, in the context of solo queue, be able to just make my own plays. You know, like on Infernum Gravitum, it felt amazing. On Calibrum Crescendum, it felt amazing. It let me just get right in someone's face and still dodge properly, like. So yeah, I'm sure its pick conditions still stay, but we're going to have to assess how much of a damage fall off building this item is now. And if it is too much, we may see a bit more of a rise in Infinity Edge and a slower 80 carry meta. I would be shocked if just a little bit of raw damage off Gale Force fully took away its conditions, even though it's overpowered. But like, the original conversation we thought we would be having of Gale Force having to compete with IE PD. Not PD. I keep saying PD. IE Quick Blades. More relevant. Yeah, so Aphelios is our priority for investigating the impact of this change, because everyone else should, like, everyone else who was like bound to it is still going to play it, build it. Everyone else who like was kind of waffling on it and built it defensively is still going to feel bad about building it in those conditions, but okay, that's fine. Imperial Mandate. It is insane. Everyone knows it's insane. 35 to 75 damage down to 40 to 60 damage, 70 to 150 damage down to 80 to 120, notably from level 1 to 18 scaling up to 8 to 18 scaling, so it takes longer to get its full damage online. Overall, that is minus 15, minus 30, that is minus 45 damage on best case proc. Ouch. Now, Grant, like, and its previous nerf, it lost how much? Its previous nerf, it only lost like 30, right? And I didn't care because it's a legendary now. Oh, it only lost damage at early levels. That's right. It lost damage. It lost 30 at early, but now it's losing 45 at late, which hurts. Granted, plus 10 early, plus 5 early, so, you know, you're getting a little bit more, like, but it's not immediately. It's not immediately. It's just... And honestly, this coordinated fire movement speed is so irrelevant for why we build the item. At level 10, like, let's say we're getting... I mean, we're getting this, like, on average 9, right? 53, and now it is lower. This was, like, 107, and now this is stuck at 80. Our 80 carries are only getting, like, 13, 14 on average. It's going from 104. Yeah, it's now 104, and it was 130. This is certainly within relevant burst windows. Does the damage on Imperial proc twice? This one procs, and then this one procs. So I'm going to apply this damage, and that damage won't go off again until I'm able to proc this, and then there's a full per target cooldown. Now the sad part is... No, not my science. Well, it's base, it's still no matter what higher. The ratio, yeah, but now, because before the mandate passive was so much better than the Luden's passive that the lack of M-Pen, the lack of AP was, like, justifiable. We also have to consider that this item is 900 gold cheaper, and it was so broken for being 900 gold cheaper that we might just be going from broken item to good item. I'm gonna have to redo the math on Mandate versus Ludens. There's a genuine chance that Lux is not supposed to build Mandate into Ludens now. The stat profile is untouched, which is really, really good. We're just losing like 30 proc damage. I think it's one of those nerfs that hurts, but it can't make the item bad. It's just going to change our comparison points a little bit between actual mage items and Mandate. Which is a shame, but it does mean that Karma can still build this item, and it does mean that Yumi can still build it, and I mean, as long as Yumi's not in the dumpster, it does mean that, yeah. Oh, it does mean, it hurts for Nami. It hurts for Lucian Nami. Ooh. So, to recap, Lucian Nami had Mandate nerfed, had Gale Force nerfed, and may have had Lucian Vigilance interactions nerfed directly with it, while Lucian passive... Lucian Nami might be bad. It might be really weak. We'll keep an eye out. Okay. Moonstone. The heal is now just flat, 35% increase. The shield is now 40% increase, assuming there's no one to chain to, otherwise it's a chain, right? Same target heal bonus is 25%, 30%, right? Wait, hang on. Always give the values of allies level 14 plus, augmenting the values of heals and shields by about 5% per cast, giving shields more leniency. Why does it say 5 heal shield power? What does this mean? Okay, good. 5% heal shield power. That's strong. That's really good. That's appealing. Remember, the best cases for Moonstone are AoE heals and shields. Okay? AoE heals and shields are really, really strong. Sona's going to enjoy that. Melia's going to enjoy that situationally. Having percent heal shield power on a mythic passive is really, really good. Granted, it doesn't have A haste, while everything else has A haste, which could factor in. So I would imagine Moonstone is more competitive on its specific champions than before. Which, last time we talked about was Soraka, of course, Janna, Melio, Sona, Karma's too bound to Helia, low-key, that might be it. Is that it? Yeah, it's still niche. It's still niche. PD, attack speed, up 5%. Cool. Standard marksman itemization still finds a difficult spot for this, unless we pivot back to BF Zeal IE, in which case PD will be a more appealing option, which beats out Kraken Slayer in the context of specifically that build. Otherwise, yeah, because like Kraken wants some pen, and it itself grants enough attack speed. Storm Razor usually pivots towards Gale Force or IE, and then by that point you have your Noon Quiver attack speed online, probably want pen, probably want defense. Yeah, Phantom Dancer is just an item that's like good, but the conditions for it are specific. Now that things have settled. I thought it would be more generic, but it's not. Rapid Fire Cannon, the damage was very, very, very high, and they are reducing it. Well, as long as it still has its niche, I don't really care too much, but I know the Garen players were complaining a lot, which makes sense because this item was so good on them. And like, even though it had less attack speed, does anybody else care too much? Well, it's not an item that you build early, so most likely, no. Okay. I mean, if no pick conditions change, I don't really care what happens to it. Energize damage on Static Shiv is going up baseline to 100. Now, I think that is by far the highest value Energize that we have, correct? Highest early. Yeah, because the Energize on Storm Razor is 15, increasing to 60% AD. Which is obviously far better scaling than Static Shiv. 100 increasing up to... yeah, so this is the highest base damage Energized by a lot. Amped by how much against minions? 250% against minions. So it's 250 base damage to minions up to 450. Which is not bad. Which is not bad for Caitlyn. Which is not bad for Vayne. Okay, so Static Shiv has been like a full meme item for me. I only consider it if you're getting any AP values at all. Now that its base Energize is so much substantially higher than RFC and from Storm Razor, maybe it's a compelling option for first item on some champions, but obviously it will not scale as well as its competitors without AP, so that's another consideration. It does mean that I have to get creative with like seeing where it fits in a little bit, but we should take it seriously now. We should take it seriously as an option. Overheal is now, instead of 20 to 300 based on level, 11% max health. Overheal was meant for ADC players, but people don't really mess with their rune pages. Pros do, and apparently, like, Aphelios was broken with it. And it's substantially stronger for high health champions like fighters. Okay, I am concerned about Aatrox with this. I'm not looking forward to that. Especially since he's actually building health with, like, Even Shroud and stuff like that. This is something for top laners to assess, whether it's higher value than Triumph. And when would it be higher value than Triumph? I wonder if Swain can get away with running this? If he doesn't mind losing Presence of Mind? Because, like, it's only going to be valuable if you're actually full HP, if you're actually sustaining yourself the entire time, right? If Fiora gets the jump on you, this could be pretty oppressive. Into any matchup in which they're actually trading HP, obviously they're still going to be taking generic Triumph. It's just, yeah, those are the pick conditions we're looking out for. Are there any hyper-sustained champions who often get to hit you first? Who would gain a significant trading advantage by sustaining from full when they go first? That's stronger level 1, no? Yeah. So, yeah, those are the conditions we're looking for. Most likely in top lane. Probably nowhere else. That's all good. Mid lane gold. Mid laners are no longer losing 1 less gold per wave, which was, like, how much? That was, like, yeah, that's, like, 7 gold per wave, and how long did that take to matter? I hear people saying that this is, like, super, super, super relevant. The last time we assessed this, we said at least in amateur play, where we're not, like, hyper-optimizing everything, it didn't matter. Because we were losing only, like, what? We were losing 7 gold per wave, for 14, 13, 30, 14. For 25 waves, we were losing 175 gold total. Oh no, but that's assuming there's a cannon in every wave too. Is that 25 wave? Wait, what the hell am I smoking? 14 minutes, 2 waves per minute, excluding the first minute and a half of the game. That is 25 waves. Yeah, which is a change of about 175 gold, which is about mid laners get an additional cull, which they didn't have before. There's like possibly a wave breakpoint where they get an item sooner or something like that, but I do personally think this didn't matter to begin with, and yeah, whatever. Red buff itself is getting nerfed. The damage is going down by, well, instead of 6 times level, it's now 4 times level. So from 12 to 114 to 10 to 78 because there were too many people running around. The slow is, ew. Oh my god. Are we taking red buff away from our 80 carries? Wait. What the no, actually, are we taking red buff away from our 80 carries? Are we giving this to our top laners? Like, or our melee mids? Like, no, I mean, 80 carries are still the most consistent at applying it, but the fact that the slow is that much worse, like, feels bad, and I know it doesn't stack. Or it shouldn't stack. Does red buff stack? Oh, it's always been. Oh, it's always been reduced. Oh, my bad. It's just like the way they phrased this. The way they phrased this, like yeah, see, it looked like that was changing. Okay, so in that case, no strategic changes. Red buffs is just weaker. It's that simple. And that takes us to the bottom. Coolio. Okay, I'm done. I have to run really fast because my mom like needs the entirety of our bandwidth. I'm already 10 minutes over when I needed to be. I have to drive my brother to something in like 20 minutes. Kevbo, you have a question? You have like 3 minutes tops. Especially since, oh, and I have to prep for scrims too. Anyone know what's going on with nobody being able to queue? No. I'm queuing. So. Sounds like a client-side issue. Especially since it's not listed here yet. So. Okay, if that's the question, I gotta run. Thank you for being here. Love yourselves, respect each other. I will see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.